Hi guys, Phil Graham here from Diabetic Muscle and Fitness.com. I want to share with you 3 of the biggest reasons why people living with diabetes struggle to build muscle mass. Reason number 1 is hyperglycemia and its effects upon the body. If you don't know what hyperglycemia is, it's basically whenever there is a lack of insulin and blood glucose builds within the body. As a result of that, the glucose cannot get out of the blood vessels and into the cells for use for energy. So as a result, these cells sense that they are starving, so to speak. And as a result of that, they resort to other means of fuel to fuel everyday human day-to-day tasks, efforts, and living. They get this energy from ketones, which is a byproduct of fat metabolism, and they also get it from amino acids. Now, in relation to getting it from amino acids, we know that muscle tissue is composed of amino acids. So, we have a process called protein synthesis that is basically involved in the laydown of new muscle tissue. And what we need to have there is we need to have a training stimulus and we need to have adequate protein to basically work cohesively to build new muscle tissue. Now, whenever you have diabetes, hyperglycemia, lack of insulin, results in a decrease in protein synthesis and an increase in protein breakdown. As a result of that, your ability to pack on muscle tissue is compromised, especially the higher the blood glucose goes. So, look at your average blood glucose level over the course of the day, over the course of the week, and ask yourself, are you within healthy range? Now, whenever we look at that reading, it will be fair to say whether or not we've spent a good bit of time being high, a good bit of time being within range, or a good bit of time being low. And as a result of that, you will be able to address whether or not your insulin dosing regime, your lifestyle, are in line with your ability to manage your diabetes. With hyperglycemia, the increase in muscle protein breakdown will reduce metabolic rate, because we're reducing a muscle tissue fiber that burns a lot of energy at rest and really contributes to our non-exercise thermogenesis, so to speak, so the ability for us to burn calories outside of training. We also see a reduction in strength, a reduction in performance, and with that we are going to see a reduction in calorific output during the training session. So there's going to be a host of issues. We also see the reduction in aesthetic appearance. If you're obviously reducing muscle mass, you're going to have a reduced muscular physique. Reason number 2 is the problematic issue of glycation, which is again associated with hyperglycemia. And it's something that I see that's fairly common in everyone that I train with diabetes, and also myself whenever I go through a bad period of blood glucose control. Hyperglycemia causes increased levels of glycation, which basically means that there's carbohydrate attaching to protein, and as a result of that, it causes derangements in the protein structure. Now, everything in our bodies relies upon protein, and in particular what I want to talk about is glycation of the joints. We also see glycation occur within the muscle tissue, within the blood vessels, and as a result of this can have serious impairments with mobility. Mobility is movement potential. And if you're training with weights, weight training is a process where you will get a lot of different levels of inflammation throughout the body. So look at how you're sore a couple of days after leg training. Look at how your mobility is restricted. Sometimes it can be difficult to get off the toilet. So that's a mobility restriction. Now, with diabetes, with hyperglycemia, prolonged hyperglycemia, the elevated levels of glycation really affect joint mobility. And there is research to back this up. So the worse your control, the increased potential for joint mobility issues. If you can't have good quality mobility, your potential for full range of motion, for full contractile force of all the muscle fibers throughout an exercise is going to be compromised. You're also going to go into exercise and have jeopardized movement capacity, which in turn can gum up the lift and increase risk of injury. Your performance as well in key lifts, especially if you compete in powerlifting or Olympic lifting, is also going to be jeopardized, because you might not be able to reach the end ranges, or you might not be able to work with speed throughout specific aspects of the lift, which in turn will affect your placing and your competitive rank. So as a result of that, you are really going to be at a disadvantage for your muscle building potential. Reason number 3 is the stress of managing diabetes. So, how many times have you asked yourself or said to yourself, I can't cope with this? Maybe you've gone to train and your blood glucose has been low. Maybe you've gone into train and your blood glucose has come out high, and you've thought to yourself, what am I doing wrong? So I've already discussed there about how going high can impair performance and impair recovery. When I used to bodybuild, I used to go into the gym and come out with a very high blood sugar when I'd gone in with a normal blood sugar, and I hadn't taken any carbohydrates. And I knew that catabolism was associated with having a hyperglycemia or a high blood glucose, and I used to get frustrated because I was thinking, this training has gone to waste. I've just been burning muscle tissue the entire time. My performance hasn't been optimal. I haven't been able to get the most out of my training. So that stress over a prolonged period of time can really hold a lot of people back. But there are solutions to it. Surrounding yourself with a good peer group, surrounding yourself with mentors or people who really know the condition inside out, people who have valuable training experience of actually working with the condition. And this is something that I cover over at the Diabetic Muscle and Fitness members site. It's full of people that are enthusiastic about learning about diabetes, about learning about maximizing performance and body composition potential. But looking at the stress of diabetes in the whole aspect of your muscle building and fat loss efforts is a massive area that you need to be mindful of. So looking at things like meditation, being aware of your diabetic control, being aware that you need to check day in, day out, having an undying level of motivation to know that if your diabetes is in control, that your body composition, performance and fat loss and muscle building efforts are all going to work perfectly if you stay within control. That was one of my massive levels of motivation. If I knew I looked after my diabetes, everything else would follow. Looking at keeping a daily journal is massive as well. Reflecting on your control throughout the day. Why did situations occur? Looking at observing patterns, looking at observing everything that goes on with your blood glucose behavior in relation to meals, in relation to stress. And if you can identify why you've gone into high blood glucose or low blood glucose in a certain circumstance, and you note that down periodically over a period of a month or a year, you're going to be able to identify particular situations that are going to put you at risk, and as a result be able to respond with those with appropriate action, be able to anticipate them. Preparation is key. Knowing when particular blood glucose levels are going to rise, when they're going to fall, especially in and around training. Why does my blood glucose level go high in the middle of weight training? Well, that's something that I discuss in my new book, the Diabetic Muscle and Fitness Guide, and something we hammer home at the membership site as well. So learning to counteract that, learning how to dose your insulin appropriately to prevent that, learning how to eat around that, learning how to prevent highs when you're sleeping at night. Again, one of the key times that when you're recovering from your muscle building efforts, especially in the gym, if you're sleeping with a hyperglycemia all night, you are definitely going to impair your muscle building progress. So it's absolutely essential that you become obsessive over your control. It's essential that you become aware of how you're thinking. It's essential that you invest in yourself, you invest in your mind on a day-to-day basis, because that mind is going to be the level of motivation that you have that you can dictate towards your diabetes. If your mind isn't sharp, then you're not going to be making good quality decisions, especially in relation to your diabetic control. It's absolutely essential that your mind is in the right headspace, that you've got the right level of motivation, the right level of people, the right level of accountability, the right level of knowledge, and that you are doing your best to build your mental assets in relation to diabetic control, muscle building and fat loss. So guys, thanks so much for listening. If you find this interesting, head over to diabeticmuscleandfitness.com and grab yourself a free copy of the Diabetic Fitness Report. This is loaded with key knowledge bombs that you can use in your muscle building and fat loss efforts. Just simply head over, enter your email address, and it will be sent directly to your inbox. You can download it, take it to the gym and read it. See you guys soon.